crashed on the way in here, and so now there's no video. And that's probably for the best, because I'm just sitting here in my underpants, in the tent, getting ready, thinking. There are so many things I need to be talking about, and trying to organize when and where to talk about them is overwhelming me. And so Thursday is the day after Hump Day, and Hump Day was always my least favorite day when I worked Monday to Friday, because Wednesday is just the day that never ends. And so I'm not going to apologize that there's no video. It's not my fault there's no video. It's YouTube's fault there's no video. And it's not my fault that YouTube's app is a piece of ass. So we're just going to fight through our technical difficulties. I was going to put on my mic before I went all the way live, and then the camera didn't work. So fuck it. I'll put on my mic once I have my pants on and I've got talking about what I'm talking about. But for now, I need to talk through my feelings. And my feelings are emotionally and intellectually overwhelmed by what I'm doing with my time and my life. Now, I no longer have to. I have errands to run tomorrow. I gotta do laundry tomorrow, and so my life, I have not figured out how to incorporate errands, running to get things, waiting on things to arrive in the mail, these sorts of things. I haven't figured out how to incorporate those sorts of things into my life as a homeless person and creator. And so, if you know anything about your mother, if your mother was a homemaker, or your mother was involved at all in your child rearing, if you know anything about her, you know that she was pretty overwhelmed, cognitively overwhelmed at all times. Stressed out is the word that people use for what I'm describing. But the reason that is because managing an entire family's time requires all of yours. It requires your entire day. And so if you're somebody's mother and you're responsible for managing all of their time, and you're somebody's wife and you're responsible for managing his time, and you have your own things that you're trying to do, other time that you're trying to manage of your own, that's a lot. That's a lot of cognitive energy. Okay, and so the other thing I forgot is that if I want to use my microphone, I have to take my phone out of its case, which is highly inconvenient and unlikely to happen. Yeah, because it's approaching noon. The sun's gonna be out. Oh, it feels so nice outside, though. Off of me, you fuck. Back out of the tent. I've eaten a little bit. I haven't had anything to drink yet since I've been awake. I'll fix that before we get out of here. I'm not taking my phone out of its case, so you're just gonna have to cope with not having the best audio that I could produce right now. We'll get into a routine, or I'll figure out some way. Buy a slimmer case or something. I don't know. I need the case right now. Maybe I just leave the case in the tent and I just use it to sleep with, because I need the case to waterproof my phone against the elements. Otherwise, I also need it to um, heat treat it against the elements. So we'll see how this works. I have a lot of, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about cognitive overload and overwhelm, is these are the things that I'm thinking about. And so with your mom, the reason your mother was so stressed out is because she's trying to manage an impossible number of things, past, present, and future, all at once, all at the same time. And a lot of times women get into this place where they try to brute force it. They try to brute force all that stuff because their fathers or their husbands are really good at managing their time. Like highly successful men, typically the reason that a man has a wife who is this personality, or is at least trying to do all of these things, the reason a man has a wife like this, or has a wife in this situation, I should say, is because he's highly successful. He is highly successful at managing his time, and so he brings this woman in to manage everything else. There's a giant ant in here, and it's going to be really fucking disappointed when I lock this tent because it won't come out. It's like, no, I'm just mapping out the interior of this tent. And it's like, yeah, you know why nobody else knows what the interior of my tent looks like from your fucking hive? It's because they don't make it back out because they're too dumb. Too much like you. Don't be like an ant. Don't explore the confines and the boundaries of, well, don't explore the boundaries of confinements that you don't need to be in. That can mean cult, that can mean intellectual positions, that can mean the lived experience of the gender that's not yours. It can mean anything. It can mean a lot of things. But you know, they talk about curiosity is what killed the cat, and I don't know that it was curiosity that killed the cat. It was not knowing what was dangerous to the cat is what killed the cat. And in a certain way, cats have this certain amount of, well, I got out of it before, I can get out of it now attitude. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Women, you know, especially college students who have found themselves sexually entangled with an extremely powerful or successful male of any age group. They're going to overestimate what he likes about them, and they're going to assume that what he likes about them is their time management skills. For good reason. He's going to immediately put them in the position to manage his time, her time, his mother, and then his children. And so this doesn't really have, I don't even know how I got to talking about this. And thank you for the like. I see you there. It's great to have you there. I should have acknowledged you as soon as I saw the like. I don't know why I'm talking about that. I don't know how I got there. That's kind of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that because I'm talking about my own cognitive overwhelm. I'm thinking about a lot of things, solving a lot of different problems, like trying to incorporate my microphone into my routine, trying to incorporate, okay, how am I going to film Final Fantasy VII and do laundry tomorrow, like these things. Hey, it's great to hear from you, Casey. Thank you for the positivity. I don't know that I'm making the world a better place, but I am doing my best to try to make extremely complex questions that my age group had that none of the adults had answers to. And so in that way, I'm advocating for adulting. You know, my generation, I'm a millennial. I was born in 87. And so my generation was the first generation to do internet memes. My generation was the first one to come up with sarcastic internet complaints. Like, we thought we were the cool kids because we were the first to do it as children, to have access to this stuff as children. And so on some level, we have failed this current young generation of kids because what we didn't do was explore the boundaries and then return to our communities to tell what we had seen truthfully. And it's like, I think about Dark Souls, or I think about like what people are saying is good about the new Death Stranding 2. It's not the new Death Stranding 2. It's the new Death Stranding. And its title is Death Stranding 2. And so what I meant to say is I gotta practice his name if I'm gonna talk about games a lot, because I know his name, but I haven't played a lot of his games. Hideo Kojima. The new Hideo Kojima game, Death Stranding 2, the difference between these two things is Dark Souls offered you, actually Demon's Soul offered you the ability to communicate across game servers without actually playing together. You could give one another messages to tell them what was coming up in the game or where a secret was or whatever. And you can pretty much guarantee when you're playing Dark Souls, any of the Souls-likes, especially by that company, From Software, that those messages are going to be trolling you into getting yourself killed. The lesson that you learn from that game is really don't trust the community of people that play that game. And so young people that play that game, they're going to assume, well, all communities of human beings are like this, just trying to send us to our doom. And so there's a certain amount of affluence and there's a certain amount of privilege that comes I'm sorry, there's a threshold with a certain amount of affluence and a certain amount of privilege that comes with this idea that, well, if I can get away with it in a video game, I can get away with it in real life. And so I'm still thinking about, I said in one of my videos yesterday, whether it was a short or whether it was one of my live streams, I said stop making one another call you out for being an asshole. Just don't be an asshole. Like, just don't be an asshole for this, for the sake of knowing, well, at least I'm not an asshole. Because that's what virtue is. Like, I guess, like, now I'm repositioning to apologize, and by apologize I mean explain, not so much say I'm sorry. Why, even though I keep saying that I really would rather read modern literature, I keep finding myself back in antique literature, back in the ancient world, back in the first 7 centuries of Christianity. And when I'm talking about reading the Confessions of St. Gregory, and it's like, well, why do you do this? And the answer is actually really simple. It sounds arrogant, but the answer is really simple. After a while of reading this modern literature, what you realize is all they're really doing is telling you, well, I read this one ancient book, and so now I'm going to crib from it for the interesting stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I can do that. You know, there's a certain amount of, well, I can do that to academe and scholarship, you know. And it's not the arrogant, you know, you walk into an art museum with no art skills whatsoever, right? No skills of an artist, to quote that person that emailed Strongbad that one time, and then Trogdor was produced, and go, well, I could make a Rembrandt, or, oh, I could make a, what's his name with the P, the joke from Guardians of the Galaxy. That's not what I'm talking about, because actually doing what they're doing is immensely hard. If you've been to my Patreon and you've read any of my essays, you know that writing an essay in the pure form, or trying to write nonfiction in a cogent and digestible fashion is very difficult. That's why, as I'm reading or listening to, I'm not putting you through the horse, the wheel, and language, I just keep pointing out a lot of this is boring. A lot of this is boring, tedious ticky-tack that nobody but experts in the field and somebody who's been reading about this subject for as long as I have really cares about. So you don't need to know. And so it's like, when I ask questions like, well, why don't you know this, or why don't you know that, or whatever, I already know the answer. I'm just trying to get you to think about it. And the answer is because you have to manage your time. You have to manage your time. And who actually has the time to sit and read a book that was written 2,000 years ago without being told already why that book is relevant to them? Okay, well, history used to do that. When we're talking about the histories that were written between 1970, let's just pick 1970. Let's just pick 5 years after the Vietnam War. I don't know when the Vietnam War ended. I don't care that much about American history, especially recent American history, to memorize the dates, because that was all my school wanted from me, was to memorize the dates that these things began and ended, and the birthdays of the people that they happened to. Well, certain of the people that they happened to. And I said, well, that is way too shallow. And so that's just a way that I will never be able to, that's just something that I will never be able to accurately learn, because I'm not just going to sit down and brute force memorize dates. It's boring, and it's not actionable. So the point is, let's just say that sometime 5 years after the Vietnam War, because of Howard Zinn, specifically because of Howard Zinn and his style of anti-government and conspiratorial teaching and history reframing in a particular female-only, black female-only college, basically, if you understand what I'm saying, because those used to still be a thing as a necessity, and not a thing out of pride and spite for the wider culture. And so why did I say that? Before, 5 years before the Vietnam War, before Howard Zinn became mega popular, you don't understand, that guy was mega popular. When we're talking about historians being mega popular today, you think about like maybe Dan Jones and being on BBC documentaries, or maybe having like a BBC documentary series. This guy was mega famous on TV. He was at protests. He was on the news. This guy was mega famous. Everybody knew him. And maybe it was mega infamous, right? Because it was really only college students who liked him. I'm stepping away from my mic to deodorize my body, so I don't know if I'm going to be audible. Just tell me, Casey, if I'm inaudible. Because I can see the chat even if you can't see me. And I don't know why that is. But before that, historians were either mega rich people who were who felt responsible and patronage to give back to not just their communities, but the very states that made their wealth possible. Forgot what I was talking about again. I got to thinking in my head about all of what that could possibly mean in your mind. Shit. I don't even remember the broad. I have suffered, this isn't something that everybody knows about me. I talk about it a lot, but not everybody, even my close friends, somehow don't hear or contextualize what it means. But I've suffered a lot of childhood concussions. Like, I suffered a serious life-threatening concussion when I was under the age of 2. And so my brain is Swiss cheese. So, like, my short-term memory can be real fucked. And that's another reason that I just can't remember dates. So what were we talking about? I got to talking about rich people, and that made me upset. And so I forgot what I was talking about on my way to rich people. Ah, yes, who historians were. Historians were rich people. They were rich people who had the time to read old books and form opinions about what ancient or old people. That's what archaeology just means, the study of old things. And that's where archaeology came from. Archaeology, history, they came from people who were rich or patronized by a rich person enough to be able to sit and read these old fucking books. Okay? Now they're students because rich people realize that the work of history is too brute force. It's too brute force, and it's just going to require too many people. So, for example, translating the Aztec written language, or the Maya, or whichever one. I think it's the Maya that have the doomsday calendar, right? But translating their fucking language wasn't the work of one idiosyncratic genius. It was the work probably, I'm not overestimating or being hyperbolic, of hundreds of grad students. Hundreds of nameless grad students. I'm not going to be able to remember his name either, but the guy who is basically the most popular Sumeriologist right now in the world, Irving Finkel, I got there. He became that way by being a nameless grad student for somebody else who was mega famous in the realm of Sumeriology for being a rich person who had the time to pore through the Bible and other existing translated accounts for descriptions of who the fuck the Sumerians were, to even know where to look for them to find their writings. This is the same with, I could use so many examples of this, but that's how Troy was found. I can't remember his name either. Yeah, I am. Heinrich Schliemann. That's how he found Troy. He was rich and had enough time to... Oh, I made that deer very mad. Oh, that scared me, actually. So that's how that works against a wolf. If the wolf doesn't know you're there, and you make that loud-ass noise out of nowhere, you startle just enough for it to get the hell away, so it has a run and start. Okay. Let me catch my breath. Whew. He had the time. He had the time to read these damn old books. Okay? These damn old books. Because these... Ay, that's Briars. The damn old books weren't just old, right? There was a time when they were new. And when we're talking about where I'm building to is I'm going to end up listening to Julius Caesar some today. Because the horse, the wheel, and language is boring me. Ow, motherfucker. Get off of me. Anyway. And part of the reason that it's boring me is because I don't have access to any of the books that it's talking about except for the Rig Veda. I don't have access to a copy of the Avestas, which are the sacred texts of Zoroaster. I don't have the money to buy them right now. So maybe I should just wishlist them to Amazon, but we'll get there. Because I keep talking about I have so many fucking irons in the fire. That's ultimately what I'm talking about. Yeah. And this is how careers never get off the ground. Right? Like if what's his name? Darwin had so many damn irons in the fire that if he hadn't been told by that kid, like, hey, I'm going to publish this thing that you've been working your entire life on, you need to pull this iron out of the fire, man. Work on it. If you understand how blacksmithing works, you put the iron in the fire until it's hot enough to be malleable, and then you work on it. But if you leave it in there long enough, it's just going to turn to liquid, and you're never going to be able to retrieve it as a workable material. It's just going to effectively, I mean, if you've ever cooked, if you've ever baked, you know, like sugar glazes that drip off into the inside of the oven, you're never getting that back. Never getting that back. So at some point you do have to pull the biscuits or the cinnamon rolls out of the oven, right? And so my inability to pull certain of these cognitive cinnamon buns that I have cooking and glazing and looking beautiful out of my mind and talk about them leaves me tired, man. It leaves me tired, and it leaves me sleeping too much because, like, I'm tired. I finished the live stream at around 10, somewhere around 10 or 11. And then I'm asleep before midnight, which means 6 to 8 hours later when the body wakes up naturally. Wake and bake indeed, actually. Wake and bake indeed. Because I wake up thinking about some thought, because I'll have some thought, I'll think some sentence in a dream, and then I'll wake up thinking that sentence, and then I'll be like, what the fuck does that mean? And then I'll spend an hour just lying there in the tent trying to figure out what this sentence means until I fall back to sleep for another hour. That's not healthy or normal behavior. It is something I've been doing my whole life, though. But I don't remember how I got there to that. But Swiss cheese brain, I can't say I'm sorry for it. I'm not the one who dropped me on my head when I was a toddler. An infant, really. I'm not really sure the difference. I don't have kids. So I'm just talking about me as I walk over here to Panera, because I'm gonna set up and play some Chrono Trigger. Either once I get inside and I know that my microphone is going to block out the background noise of the music and the people around me, or once I've had something to drink and got the umbrella up and it's cooled down enough out here that maybe my phone will let me see in the sun. That doesn't seem like it's going to be a problem today. We're going to find out. But yeah, then I stress myself out because I'm like, yeah, you should really just do what I'm doing now, go live and just talk. But then I'm like, well, what am I going to talk about? Whoop, lost my cigarettes. And I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And then I spend 23 minutes, or now it's 24 minutes, effectively saying that I really don't know what I'm saying. So I hope it's helpful to you, because I'm just trying to say that I get so tired, I get bored of reading modern scholarship, because effectively what they're telling me is if you really want to understand this subject, if you really want to understand it, just go and read X, Y, or Z author for yourself. Because the best that I can do is give you my interpretation, and the best I can do is speculate. That's all they're allowed to do in the modern world. They're not allowed to tell you what the takeaway is anymore because of Howard Zinn. That's where I was trying to get. Because of who historians were in the ancient, or the pre-modern, the pre-Howard Zinn world, because of who they were as far as their social class, effectively being rich people, they were also hand in glove with the government. So an historian's job was not just to gatekeep and really guard consensus really, that's important in scholarship, but it's especially important in history because it's harder to do tests in history. It's easy, effectively easy, to gather data, but it's difficult to test theories and really hone in on the scientific method. So consensus really matters. Consensus really matters when you're talking about history. Fucking accelerate, please. It's a car. It can take that hill because all you have to do is give a little bit more effort in your foot. Damn it, just accelerate up the hill so I don't have to stand in this sun. Whew. Little acts of compassion, man. It's not hard to go, oh, that guy's standing in the sun. I could go 2 miles per hour faster, so this is over quicker for him. Wouldn't be difficult. Anyway, what was I saying? They worked hand in glove. Historians worked hand in glove with the government to make sure that governments were making decisions that made sense in the context of historical decision making. That I don't need to rephrase that. What I need to say is that that's only partly true. Many of our public figures, Europeans, were historians for a separate income apart from government. They wrote histories. They were deeply invested in reading old books because they had the time, because they were in government. They were already independently wealthy. It was really only very recently that we started suggesting that poor people should try to govern so they wouldn't be able to appropriately manage their times, and then they could be easily churned out of government for legacy rich people. That was only a strategy that was developed very recently. And so what I'm saying is that this Howard Zinn jaded approach to history, where everything is cyclical and everything is always the same and nothing is ever new, and the approaches that governments use never evolve, and it's all propaganda and fuck the government, all of that is dateable to Howard Zinn, circa, let's just pick a date, 1977. Like, if you go and look before that, that is just not how people voted. It's not how people thought about their governments. Even oppositional people to their government understood that the government isn't a body. It's people. It's peopled by people. And if you don't like what the government is doing, you replace the people. Now, oftentimes, the only way that, before the United States, the only way you could do that was to literally replace them. But this idea that we've got since Howard Zinn, that you can't even replace people, that you can't even replace the representatives in the government, just, it annoys the shit out of me. And I mean, it makes sense for his time, because that was a thing in Southern former Confederate politics. It was a real thing to just try to keep the same. I'm trying to remember his name now. There was a guy who was like 115 or something stupid like that, who kept being reelected just because the district didn't want to try anybody else, and they wanted the record. I have like Henry David Wallace, and that's not right. He had like Forrester or something. He had a crazy name. Anyway, change is what you want it to be, man. If you speak an Indo-European language, words only mean so much anymore. You're even allowed to change what words mean. I wouldn't recommend it. But like, I get to talking to a friend who's like, well, we millennials lack innovation. And it's like, man, we millennials have adapted to so much innovation in such a short time. We are cognitively and spiritually burnt the fuck out on innovation. But every generation is by 40. That's just what happens. That's just who you are by 40. You're like, God, these damn kids. And so I don't know why we always thought this, but I'm speaking directly to all of my millennials out there in the universe. I don't know why we thought we were never going to grow up. Like, why we have this Peter Pan syndrome is really what it's called. I don't know why we have this Peter Pan syndrome en masse. I don't know where it comes from. I'm talking now about another thing that I'm just researching and can't let go, that affects my cognitive exhaustion. I don't think I have Peter Pan syndrome. I very much feel like I have retired to read old books because modern writers refuse to have an opinion about the modern world because they're not allowed to. And I'm at my spot, and this lady doesn't like me, so I'm gonna get off mic. And I hope you guys have a good day. I didn't acknowledge that second guy. I was going to just now, but you know, he ducked out because I was done. No, thank you for being here, Casey. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the like. You guys take care of yourselves. I can't do it for you. Somebody's got to. Why not you?